Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Read Em. My name's Emily, and today is my 22nd birthday, so we're gonna haul some books. So, full transparency here, only 2 of the books I'm about to haul are actually my birthday present books, and the rest are just books that I've bought for myself over the past several months. But I hadn't had like a dedicated video to haul them in a while, and I have a lot of them, so I really wanted to update you all with the additions to my collection, because I'm very excited to read a lot of these, and I thought this was the perfect and most fun way for me to celebrate my own birthday. So first, we'll start out with the 2 that I actually was gifted for my birthday. The first one we have is a Penguin Classics edition of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which I've never read and has been on my TBR for a long time. All I really know about it is like the basic facts of that it takes place in a mental ward, and I know that there's a movie with Jack Nicholson, but I just like twisted things, especially when it has to do with like mental illness, and I think that this could be interesting. I don't know if it's gonna hold up because I know it's old and I don't really know what to expect. I've also never read from this author, but I'm intrigued by it, and I'm also intrigued by the movie, so I'm excited to have gotten this. And the second book that I got for my birthday was A Funny Story by Emily Henry. Now, if you know me and my YouTube channel at all, you know that I don't have the greatest track record with romance. However, there are a few that I've really loved, including People Who Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, which is the only Emily Henry I've ever read. And I know that with her books, people like certain ones and dislike other ones, and I'm hoping that this is one that I'll like because I really liked this one. The premise is really over the top and funny sounding. Basically, our female main character finds out that her fiance is still in love with his ex, and then the ex is also still in love with the fiance, so they get together again, and then she's left stranded and decides to fake date her fiance's ex's ex. Newfound ex. It's a web of confusion, but it sounds really hilarious, and they're trying to make the other couple jealous, obviously. And I loved this book because it was funny, but also sweet, and had friends to lovers, people that already knew each other. This one, obviously they won't already know each other, but they're going through the same problem, and I like that trope too. We'll see what I think. And I'm obsessed with the lemons on the spine of this. It's so cute. Okay, so the next pile of books that I have are ones that I just bought on my recent trip to Portland, Maine, and I went to 5 bookstores there, and I couldn't control myself with what I was buying. So I got a lot of things. The first thing I'm going to show connects to the next video I'm going to put out, so I don't know if you're going to get the hint or not, but this is a book I was missing in this series, and it's called If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, and it is a children's book. Wink wink. So I don't want to say too much, but this is from a childhood favorite series of mine. I don't know if you put 2 and 2 together. Maybe you can. Maybe you're smart because you've read this book, and only smart kids read this thing. The next book I got was recommended to me by a friend, so shout out to you because you know who you are. And that is Inkblood Sister Scribe by Emma Torres. This is a fantasy book that has to do with books. So what more can I ask for? Again, I don't know too much about it. Other than that, I think it's also about sisters. Says it in the title right there. And I just trust this friend's taste. So I want to read it, and the cover is really pretty. And I'm also excited actually because I've been meaning to fill out my fantasy shelf a bit more, and this one will fit right in. Does that look good? Or should I go over one more? It's going over one more. Oh, that's it. That's the one. She's been added to my shelf. Their permanent collection. Now, when in Maine, there is one author that specifically comes to mind, and I had to buy one of his most iconic books. I've read 5 or 6 of his novels, but haven't yet read Pet Sematary by Stephen King. I also hadn't seen this new cover. It's really pretty. I actually really like it. And I was on a sunset cruise that actually went by a Pet Sematary, which I think is kind of rumored to maybe be the one that inspired this Pet Sematary, because how many pet cemeteries are in Maine? I don't know. But that's not confirmed. It was just a fun little theory. I feel like I don't need to pitch this to you all because you probably know what it is. But I mean, honestly, I don't really, because I don't like to know too much. I just know it's a story about grief. It's really scary. It's Stephen King. Has to do with a cat, but probably not really about a cat. That's all I got. That's all I got for you. But I love this author, and I had to get it when I was in Maine. Sticking with the horror theme, I went to a used bookstore and saw this book in like brand new condition with sprayed edges, and it's one of my most anticipated releases of the year. Even though I didn't actually like the other book I read by this author, I just like have this like sense that I could like something else he's written, and that's Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay with red sprayed edges. And I had a great conversation with the woman working at the cash register about this book. She said she loved it. We talked about the sprayed edges and how awesome they are. And I just like have faith in this. I know a lot of people have been reading it and haven't been loving it recently. But I'm gonna trust that woman. I'm gonna trust her and my like sixth sense about it and hope for the best. Because the other book I read by him, remember here, Cabin at the End of the World, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, which was really disappointing. Like, I'm feeling something about this. Like, you and me, we're gonna understand each other. I'm gonna manifest that. All I know about the basic premise is that it has something to do with a horror movie that was never released and only like one cast member is still surviving, and they're gonna like recreate it in like a remake. Something like that. I don't know. Kind of have like House of Leaves, lost footage, things that don't exist vibes. So we'll see what I think. And the last book that I got while I was in Portland was I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, translated by Ross Schwartz from French because the author is Belgian. This book is pretty old. It's from like the 90s, I'm pretty sure, but it's been having a resurgence, probably because of Kayla from Books and Lala. I could be wrong. That's who I saw it from. But I'm sure other people have also been reading it recently because they've been pumping out copies of these. I'm seeing them everywhere. All I know about this is it's like kind of a classic dystopian situation where 39 women live underground in a cage. That's all I got. It's kind of giving like Handmaid's Tale vibes. That's all I got though. Like I don't want to know more. I've just seen everyone that I love online love this. And I don't know what it is. I mean, the title's iconic. The cover is pretty iconic. It looks, look at that. Like it's so simple. I just like need to know what this is. And I really like the end page. Even though it's paperback, it has this cool like pattern. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it, and I want to read it soon. And the last thing I got at the main bookstores was actually not a book, but it was the best socks I've ever found in my whole life. Little Women socks of my favorite cover edition. And I'm going to shout out also all the bookstores right now so you can know what they are. The first one I went to was Sherman's Bookshop, and then I also went to Longfellow Books. I also went to Green Hand Bookshop and Yes Books and Print Bookstore. Highly recommend all of them. They're all in Portland, Maine. They're all walkable, and I highly recommend all of them. I bought books, I think, from every single one of them. Maybe not one of them. I don't remember, but you should stop by all of them. Okay, so now for the next round of things I have. I'm gonna start with ones that I know for sure that I got at a library book sale, which means I got each of them for $1. Which is why I have so many books, and I usually get a lot of them cheap or for free. So, without further ado, let's go into my library book sale haul. First up, we have Whisper Network by Chandler Baker. I'm a little bit less picky about books I buy when I'm at these book sales because they're so cheap. This, I'm like not even sure was on my TBR before, but I've seen this author compared to Ashley Audrain, who's one of my favorites. She wrote The Push and The Whispers, and I just know that this is about like a neighborhood of women fighting back against their community and like men. I don't know exactly, but I just like this kind of like upmarket fiction mixed with like slight thriller from a women's perspective vibe. That sounds very specific, but I feel like it might have similar vibes to the Ashley Audrain's, and I'm here for that. Next up, we have The Book of the Unnamed Midwife by Meg Ellison. I've seen this floating around BookTube for a while. I think I haven't seen it in a little bit, but I just know it's like a post-apocalyptic or like apocalyptic story. It's kind of all I have. I just know that Riley loved it, and I think maybe Kayla also did. It was $1. I saw it. I needed to have it. Now I do. My next pick, it's gonna seem like a little out of pocket, a little bit strange, because it's a classic, which you know, not always entirely my thing, but Lord of the Flies. I haven't read Lord of the Flies. We're gonna have to sit with that admission for a little bit, because I think this is totally my thing. It also has an afterword by Lois Lowry, the icon herself, and this cover speaks to me. I love books that take place on islands. I love books about survival. I love books about people fighting, and I feel like this will have all that. I like gross things. I know there's like the pig situation. Like, I feel like I'm gonna like this. I also found out, I don't think anyone knows about this except for me, so like, let's keep this a secret. I'm gonna gatekeep this a little bit, but I'm also gonna tell you. According to Letterboxd, I know it's not always accurate, but there's a movie listing on there for a Lord of the Flies movie written by Patrick Ness and directed by Luca Guadagnino. I can't say any more. Is that why I got this? Maybe. Maybe it is. But like, I just need that movie now. And if you have the audacity to think, Luca Guadagnino, can he do a like horror survival thriller thing? Have you seen this one? Have you seen Bones and All? I think a lot of people didn't see Bones and All. I think a lot of people skipped it. I think a lot of people went Call Me By Your Name, Challengers. Call Me By Your Name, Have you seen Bones and All? Do you know that he made Suspiria? That's all I have to say about that. Next, we have The Boy at the Top of the Mountain. Similar in like the classic vein. This is not really a classic, but The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I'm sure you've all heard of. This is the same author. I really liked Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and I just got this because it was the same guy. And the last one I have from the library book haul is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry by Frederick Bachman. I've read two of Bachman's novellas, but I've never read any of his novels. And I've heard this one is just kind of like middle of the road, but again, it was $1. So I got it. And I think his writing's very sweet. And I like books that are narrated by children, but they aren't children's books. And I think this is one of those books. Okay, the next batch of books are more books that I got for free, actually, because I worked at a publishing house this summer and spring, and when I finished up my role there, I went around to the free books sections and just took what I wanted, so this is from that. The first one we have is Mistborn Secret History, because if you've been following me on Goodreads, my blog, anything like that, you'll know I read the entire Mistborn trilogy, my first Brandon Sanderson experience, and this is part of that series, kind of. It's part of the Cosmere, which is like the grander universe that these books and like his other series take place in. It's a lot and confusing if you don't know about it, but this is like part of that, and I can't read it yet because I'm not like at that point in the universe, but I wanted to have it because I don't think this like edition is like always at stores, so I was excited to see it, so I picked it up. The next book I got, I was very excited to see, and that is Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. This one I know Kayla from Books and Lala loved. It's an Irish horror. Love an Irish book. Love a horror book, and so this combines the two, and it was free. So once again, do I really know what this is about? No. So I now have it in my house. And the final book from this section is one that's gonna require a little context. This is The Legacy of Molly Southbourne, and it's the last book, I think the last book, in a series that starts with the murders of Molly Southbourne. I don't have the second one, but that's because I only found the third one in the free pile. But this book I also hauled recently, and this is a book that I bought at Indigo, a bookstore that they usually only have in Canada, but there's one also in New Jersey, fun fact, and I love that store. It's humongous, like actually the biggest bookstore I think I've ever been in, and they have everything, and it's hard to find this like little novella, so I was excited when I bought it, and I was also excited to find this one for free. Anyway, I know that Kayla and all people like that love this book. It has to do with a woman named Molly Southbourne, who every time she bleeds, another version of her comes to life, like a clone, and then she has to like track them down and kill them. Something like that. But I know that a lot of people like love the first book and then don't read the rest of the series because they didn't like the second one. This was free, so like I just got it, even though don't even know if I'm gonna want to read it based on this, but I definitely want to read the first one. And then I have this one on standby if I do continue the series. And for my final pile of books here, these are books that I actually bought myself just like over the past few months. So the first one I have, I think I hauled in my Summerween video, but I'm going to formally haul it again here, and that is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Everyone loves this author. If you read horror, you know him, you love him, you understand him. And this is his newest release. I have been seeing mixed things about it, which alarms me and makes me nervous a little bit to read it. However, the format of it seems like it's up my alley. It has like some forum posts from like websites, and then it also is like told from the perspective of this like seems like super unlikable like teenage boy who's really like gross and like annoying. But like I kind of like reading from that perspective. I don't know what it is. I like have a bit of a toxic man taste sometimes, so I feel like this could like satisfy that weird niche. I don't know. I'll let you know what I think about this, but I haven't been seeing the greatest things. And speaking of not the greatest reviews, we have The 7 Visitations of Sydney Burgess. Now there is a reason I bought this though. This has a very low rating on Goodreads, like really low, like bordering in the 2-star range. But I know Riley Marie loved this, and I trust her horror recommendations. But on top of that, I'm also just interested in it because I have been slowly reading more and more possession stories, and I feel like that's like a horror niche I haven't fully explored in movies and books. For example, I recently watched the entire Saw franchise, all 10 movies. That has nothing to do with possession, but I want a new franchise to watch, and I'm thinking of watching the Conjuring franchise. I've only seen like one of them, La Llorona one, but that is like apparently like really unrelated to the rest of them. But anyway, I am interested in watching that to get into my possession movie era. And then for my possession book era, I read Come Closer last year, and I also read recently Incidents Around the House, also a possession story, and I loved Incidents Around the House and I liked Come Closer, so I'm really intrigued to find like my favorite one, because Incidents was great, but it was a 4.5, not quite a 5, and I think the highlights of it were not the possession elements, it was the creature elements. This one though, the tagline on top is "Possession is an addiction." That is very intriguing to me. I don't know exactly what they mean by that, and I don't really know anything about this. I kind of just bought it blindly because of Riley. We'll see. Next one we have is another Kayla recommendation, as always, and that is A History of Fear by Luke Dumas. I think she gave this like 4 stars. The reason that this one really intrigues me though in terms of premise is that it takes place in Scotland, and it's about an infamous murderer. However, he claims that the devil is making him do it, and I love something where you're questioning whether or not it's supernatural. That's one of my favorite tropes in like horror thrillers, and it kind of reminds me of All These Bodies, I think that's what it's called, by Kendora Blake. And then also, actually didn't like this. I just watched the movie Longlegs. It has kind of the same concept. I didn't really like Longlegs actually at all, which was really sad because I was really anticipating it. But this might do it better. And I love like a historical, like Scottish or like English vibe, like Jack the Ripper vibes. So I don't know. I think this could be for me. It's also written in like a faux nonfiction format where it's supposed to be like a nonfiction book, but obviously it's a fiction book. So that kind of sounds fun. Adding it to the list. The next book I kind of have a funny story about when I bought it in the store. I was holding this book like under my arm so no one could see it. And then I was also holding in my hand a book called The Wedding People, which in a second will make you laugh because of how different they are. But I was looking at The Wedding People because I like to read a lot of different genres. And this genre is not typically my thing, but I've just been seeing great reviews about it. I love the cover. And it was like a Barnes & Noble pick of the month or something. So it's like on a table and I was like looking at it. And then this bookseller came up to me and saw me looking at that. And I guess assumed that I liked really like summery, like pleasant fiction. And he was like, oh, you know what, you'll love this one. And he comes over and gives me this book. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, yeah, you know, if you've read like Sally Rooney and like blah, 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 like you'd like this. And I was like, oh, you know, I like Sally Rooney. Sure. And he like walked away and I was just like, because The Wedding People book, I didn't really want that. I was just kind of looking at it. But the book that I was holding under my arm, which is my actual taste in books, was this. So I think if you saw this, he wouldn't have tried to give me this. But it was really quite hilarious and I had to like wait until he was gone so I could put it back because I felt bad. But Mayfly was the book I ended up buying that day, which is kind of like a parody or like retelling, I'm not sure exactly where the line is drawn there, of American Psycho, which I love the movie of American Psycho. And this is with a female main character though. It's kind of like a satire, I think, on the idea that like there are so many male characters that are allowed to be like inexplicably evil, but they aren't usually any female characters that are allowed to be like inexplicably twisted. They always have to have some sort of like logical motivation where you can have something like American Psycho and be like, well, he's just like that. But no one lets women be like that. I think that's like what this is. And it's gonna be like an insufferable main character, but that's the point. And it's like really gross and like a little splatterpunky, I think. I don't know. I love this cover, and I love American Psycho, so I'm excited to read this. Sticking with the horror train, we have Pen Pal by Dathan Arbach. I think I also hold this in one of my vlogs at some point, but I was excited to see this at Barnes & Noble because it was originally self-published. Maybe it still is, I'm not sure, but it's kind of hard to find in person, like in physical print. And I just know that this one is also known to be really scary, and it's like a amalgamation of like multiple childhood memories, and then you like slowly piece them together into like one larger story, I think. This one really calls to me. I kind of want to read this soon, but I have a lot of like projects I'm working on for my videos, so I don't know if I'll be able to fit it in, but I really do want to get to this, and I've heard like everyone I follow loves it, so we'll see about that. Okay, we only have a few left. I know this video is getting long. The next one we have is completely different from those genres, and we have Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin. This is the same author as Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead, which is really popular, but this one I know has to do with like OCD, and that is something that I relate to, so I want to read it. Okay, it's kind of low-key just because I've heard good things about her, this author. Her name's Emily, and it sounds relatable. That's kind of the only reasons I have this. I don't really know that much about what it's about. That's that. And then lastly, I have two short story collections that I bought in the past few months. And the first one we have is Exhalation by Ted Chiang. He's the author who also wrote Stories of Your Life and Others, which one of those stories is what inspired Arrival, my favorite sci-fi movie of all time. And I've heard that this collection is also very good. And if he came up with the idea for Arrival, like, I trust his brain with anything. And these are sci-fi, if you couldn't tell already. And last, but certainly not least, we have Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. And this definitely wins the award for the best title of any book ever. Actually, you know what? It might have to tie with I Who Have Never Known Men. Like, loving both of those vibes. This one is also short stories. I know it's really intense and sad, and my mom didn't like it, but everyone else I know loved it, so I want to read this. And she also is the author of the book In the Dream House, which is quite popular, which is like a memoir, but like very literary memoir. I don't know exactly what to expect with this, but I've just heard that it's exquisite. I want to get to it eventually. Clearly, I have a lot to get to. So that is finally every single book I've hauled in the past few months. Please let me know what you think I should try to prioritize. I know that I'm working on specific videos that make it hard to like slot in other books, but I am interested to know what your favorites are because I have a lot of different things going on here. So please consider liking for engagement and subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!